to Take It from the Iron Woman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Iron Woman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Iron Woman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Iron Woman. We only have special guests, and you better listen up today. We have Kulia with us. She ran many marathons. We'll find out how many the number is. And we want to find out about herself. Kulia, welcome and introduce yourself. Who is Kulia who's going to join us today?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am a licensed massage therapist, a registered yoga teacher, a certified health coach, and a passionate marathoner. I have run 258 marathons so far. And I'm very excited because I have 262 already lined up. I pace marathons in the US and abroad, and I love helping people achieve their goals, achieve their dreams, and to push them a little bit further than they think they can go.
258 marathon races. I've done 26 and people think I'm crazy. I don't know what 258 is. Tell us a little bit, how did it start?
It's very, very interesting story, and I'm glad you asked, because there was a time that I was a non-runner. I was actually very sick. In my 20s, I had a brain tumor, and I had a pretty difficult time relearning how to use my body post-op. So learning how to walk and then learning how to run was a big challenge for me in the 90s. And I happened to live in New York City, and I witnessed the New York City Marathon go by, and I was watching and I was like bewildered. Oh my God, look at these people. They look so healthy. They look so happy. And at that time in my life, I would have given anything to be able to run. I made a deal with God. I made a commitment. I said, dear God, please give me the strength to one day do that. I didn't know what that was, but I wanted to do whatever they were doing because they looked so happy. And I was on my crutches trying to walk. And so God kept her end of the bargain. My God is Mother Nature. And so I had to keep my end of the bargain. And I started training for the marathon. I started to figure out, what can I do to get stronger? And that's where my love and my passion for fitness and bodywork and nutrition came. But that's a different story. The marathon represented to me being healthy. And I wanted to be healthy. The marathon represented being strong and having a commitment to your goals. And I wanted to think about something other than cancer. It was a wonderful, wonderful way for me to transition from sick girl to empowered and driven and focused girl. And that's what the marathon did for me. And so it went from 1 to 258. It's addicting, as you know.
We know it's addicting. You start once and then you're like, let's go further. And I want to go back to that New York City Marathon. I remember when I was watching the New York City Marathon, I was like, I want to do that. What is it? It's magic.
It is such a magical race. And I just was lucky to be there at the right time. Mm-hmm. But I think I've always been looking for something to inspire me, something to put me into that. I can't wait to get up and do that. My whole life, I've always wanted to find something that resonated with me. And it wasn't until I found running that it just clicked. It seems to live in my bones now. It lives in my blood. It courses through me. I don't know how to exist now without running. It is my mental, my physical, my heart. It's really my everything. And I'm grateful that I found it. And I'm so happy that I help others find it as well.
Was New York City the first marathon? And then you kept going. Tell us a little bit about the marathon history for you.
Actually, my first marathon was Marine Corps. The year I wanted to run New York, when I finally got strong enough, I realized that I couldn't just do it that year. Mm-hmm. You have to do your 9+1 races and then qualify for the following year. But I was already training. I was, okay, I'm going to do a marathon. And I found the Marine Corps, which is the week before. And that was my first marathon. That was 17 years ago. And I thought that I was going to do that as a prelude, as a warm up to the New York City Marathon. And that was going to be that. I was going to run New York, and that was going to be it. I fulfilled my promise to the universe. I got something very spiritual out of it. And of course, I raised a ton of money for Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. When I crossed the finish line, no, skip that. When I was training for it, when I was gearing up towards it, when I lined up and I felt the goosebumps on my arms, and I was in that collective that we're all running together for 4 hours and 40 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this is so magical. I couldn't wait to do it again and again and again. Basically, I love the way I felt when I crossed the finish line, waking up every day, having a goal. Okay, today I'm going to run 5 miles, check. That gave me something so positive and so empowering. I couldn't see why I wouldn't keep doing it. And so one led to the next and one led to the next. And of course, after you do 3 or 4, you think, well, I can do better.
Competitiveness comes in. You're like, I want to do better. I want to do faster.
Then I found the 50 Staters, a club that runs marathons in all 50 states. And of course, I had to do that because I'm an avid traveler. Traveling is one of my many passions. I wanted to see the world, and now I run to see the world. And I don't get on a plane unless there's a marathon attached to it.
Some people travel to see something, but we are crazy. We go and run a marathon. And you mentioned in your biography, you have done it not only once, but twice. And soon it will be the 3rd time.
This is a beautiful country with so many national parks. I love national parks. And going to a new place, my first thing is, where's the closest national park? And then I get to experience running in nature's beauty, because living in Manhattan in the concrete jungle, I don't have a lot of natural beauty around me. I always wanted to see the national parks. And the first round, it was about seeing. And then, of course, I made friends on the way. And then when you have running friends that you want to spend time with, because runners get each other, we pick races we want to do and we share the experience together. It just becomes more meaningful. The second round was just really to see friends I've made. And the third round, because I'm now addicted to it, Maui oceanfront in January, as you mentioned, is going to be my 3rd time finish of the 50 states. And the reason that's significant is because Maui is where my husband and I got Maui'd. We crossed the finish line as husband and wife. Mile 17 and a half in 2014, we got married, or as I like to say, Maui'd, on the course.
On the course? How did you organize?
I contacted the race director and told him what my plan was. My husband and I, then my fiance, were interested in doing a marathon on the course because I've seen other people get married at the start. I've seen people get married at the finish, but I've never seen anyone get married on the course. And I asked his permission, and he emphatically said yes, and he helped. And he provided a photographer for us and a spot that would not interfere with the course, but yet be right there. And so it happened. I think if you really want something, if you truly desire something, the universe conspires and helps you. And everything just lined up. It was meant to be.
I'm with you. If you want something, I mean, you wanted to complete the 50 states. You did it once, twice, and now the 3rd time.
It will be very meaningful because, well, I think every race to me to this day is still very meaningful. Completing something that you once thought was impossible always is so meaningful, because if you remember in the 90s, I was unable to walk. I was in crutches and I was learning how to use my body post-op. And the fact that I can do them so effortlessly now, and now that I pace others on their journey, it's not about speed anymore for me. That has passed. I've reached the speed that I wanted. And now it's about helping others achieve their goals. And when I crossed the 50 states this time in Maui, the first time I had a group of bridesmaids around me, believe it or not. I had running bridesmaids. The Marathon Maniacs became my second family. And this time, of course, my husband will be there as well. But I will have a couple of close friends with me that I'm going to help pace to the finish.
Tell us, for the non-runners, pacing, like how do you pace others and how did you get involved in that?
Pacing allows me to help others not give up on themselves. Runners typically tend to start off too fast with a lot of enthusiasm. They just go, full throttle. And then somewhere in the later, darker miles, they start to slow down. And then in the end, they're walking because they gave it too much too soon. And as a pacer, my job is to be consistent. From start to finish, I'm a metronome. We start, well, I usually pace 4:30, which is a 10, 17-minute mile. Whether we're going uphill or we're going downhill, it doesn't really matter. I lock into that pace and I maintain it. And studies show that if you keep that consistent pace, you have a lot more in the tank. When you get really tired, you can really dial into that pace. If you go too fast, too soon, you burn a lot of energy, similar to your gas in the car. I'm that metronome person who stays consistent, and I help others not give up because they say, oh, I don't want to keep this up. I'm getting tired, or it's been great running with you, but I think I'm going to pull back. And I say, not on my watch. We're going to do this together. We're going to cross that finish line together. And I remind them why they first started. I remind them how hard they've worked. And pain is temporary. Internet results are forever. I don't let them leave my sight. I tie an imaginary lasso around them and I just remind them to breathe deep and focus on their form because I am a yoga teacher. I remind them of all the reasons why they just started in the first place. They don't quit on themselves. And it's so wonderful to see them cross the finish line and then fall into my arms and cry and say, I did it. I did it. A lot of people go with me 4:30 is usually a first timer goal. It's not someone who's advanced or someone who's really experienced. It's usually first timers. And I was a first timer once, and I want to help them reach their higher potential because they can do more than they think they can do. Yeah. I mean, we all can.
We all can. We know. But I think a 10-17 pace, I mean, it doesn't sound like fast, but in a marathon, to be consistent, it is the consistency that is the difficulty to keep it up. I mean, I'm the one who goes out fast and then I'm like, oh, I need to slow down. But the more we run those races, the more we learn about ourselves. And I've never done a race with a pacer, but I know how difficult it is because I was once a pacer and I don't think I did such a good job.
It's like anything, like any muscle, the more you use it, the better you get at it. Yeah. If you already did it, it's already part of you and it's muscle memory.
It was actually in New York City Central Park when they had, what was it called? Women's More Marathon.
The More Marathon. I remember
the More Marathon.
We were over 40 when it started.
Yeah, but it got like up to 90 degrees. I think people were falling off. The temperature was so hot, so we couldn't keep the pace anymore. And I think as of then, they gave up on the full marathon. They kept it as a half marathon, unfortunately. But it was, I think I could have kept the pace, but it was the temperature. It was just not possible. And I also have to say, and I admire you that you say 10:17. I think I was pacing the people at 10:30. And it's difficult to go always at that same pace. I admire you to be so consistent with a 10:17 pace, like the metronome. They call me the Swiss Miss because I'm Swiss, a Swiss watch. Being very consistent for others, I think adds another level because I know what I can do. Don't you feel then responsible for the others? I think that's a huge responsibility you're taking on.
Thank you. It is a responsibility that I enjoy because now, as I mentioned, I've run so many of them. I don't have as much, I don't want to say the wrong thing. It's not that difficult for me to complete a marathon, but to keep a consistent pace, it takes it to another level and it makes it more challenging. It makes it a lot more challenging because of course I want to run faster, but if I'm collectively helping people, I can't. It's not about me. It's about their race. Pacers typically run a great deal faster than when they pace. Yeah. We can talk. We can help people relax their body and drink some water and don't forget about this and don't forget about that. We're constantly talking the whole time, inspiring them, telling stories. I like to tell history of New York or where we're running.
You talk the whole time.
Pretty much. But keeping that pace, as you mentioned, it gives it another level. Yeah. I like to challenge myself. I like to make my body work a little bit harder than it wants to. And that's a great way to challenge myself while I help others.
And it seems like you're helping so much other people while you are completing also your goals. Thank you so much for all your insights.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak to you.
Always nice to talk to a marathon runner, but she's not only a marathon runner, she is a great inspiration. Listen to her energy, listen to her motivational attitude. Take it from the Iron Woman. We have episodes every Monday, every Wednesday. There's something for everybody, from runners to coaches to authors to everybody. Take it from the Iron Woman started out as a book. Take it from the Iron Woman, global business coaching with sports parallels. There you can find my journey from Switzerland to New York to my first marathon and eventually to the Ironman. Thank you for your support. Please subscribe, follow us, and keep listening. Thank you so much.